It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Cameroon. Part 2, the selection. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin, and this is a continuation of Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is part 2 in our coverage of Cameroon's players. And we move into Section 3, and we want to welcome listeners to the short version of the mediacast here. We're going to begin with our Spotlight review. That is a race through the squad reviewing what we've covered in Section 2. Well, really what we've covered in what we've covered in parts 1 and part 2. So part 1, we kind of built this list, putting players at their likelihood of making the squad and giving some information about them. And then in Section 2, showing you who made the squad and who didn't, and also making predictions. That is very difficult in the situation because the manager, David Pagu, came in after the last game they played. So the manager who guided them through World Cup qualifying was fired after they lost the first playoff games. That was Mark Breeze. And David Pagu, a kind of a local manager, came in. And his mandate was to kind of clear up a messy situation among the players, the FA, and the government. And he seems to have done that, but made a lot of changes. Well, time will tell whether he did it. Anyway, he is working towards that, I should say. And there are a lot of changes on this squad as a result of him coming in, but we'll consider David Pagu a successful selection for the final squad. He will lead them through the tournament. For goalkeepers, we have definite candidate Simon Omosolo making the cut. But surprise, the first of many surprises here, Andre Onana not selected even for the preliminary squad. Our two possible candidates, Davis Ipasi and Simon Ungapanduetenbu, both of those selected for the final squad. We're not going to talk about players below the possible level unless they make the final cut. And lo and behold, we do have one here. So a fourth goalkeeper, Edouard Songbang, added to the squad here. And as we noted in Section 2, just 14 caps among these four goalkeepers, so not bringing a lot of experience to the cup. In terms of starters, we're really not sure because of the new manager, but we give possible to Simon Omosola and Davis Ipasi. That's where we landed on that. Let's move on to central defenders. We had no definite candidate here, but three likely candidates. The first two didn't make the final squad, though, just a preliminary squad. That is Michael Ngaju and John Charles Castelletto. So more surprises there. Our third likely candidate, though, Christopher Woe, did make the cut, and the first two of our possible candidates also making it. That is Enzo Boyomo and Junior Cotto Samuel. Both of those selected for the final squad. And that's it, other than the fact that we have two new candidates added to the list here. So Che Malone, or Che Malone, and Gurzino Nyamsi. Both of those added to the final squad. In terms of starters, well, there's not really a lot to choose from, especially in terms of experienced players. So for that reason, we think Christopher Wu, or Christopher Woe, we're not really sure how to pronounce it, is a likely starter. And then Enzo Boyomo, we also think is a likely starter. We also think left back Nuhu Tolo, who we'll meet right away here, is a possible starter in central defense. Okay, let's move to the left back, and this is where we meet Nuho Tolo. He was a definite candidate, and he was selected for the squad, as was our likely candidate Mohamedou Abubakar Nagida. Nagida, probably the name he will be known by. He too selected for the final squad, and a bit of a surprise here in that our possible but unlikely candidate, Darlin Yonghwa, also selected for the final squad. So 3 left backs here, which maybe suggests that Tolo will be used in central defence. Anyway, we consider Nuho Tolo a likely starter, um, especially given that he could start here or as a centre back. And we think Nagida a possible starter over here. It's also possible, but both of them could be on the pitch too. Okay, let's move to right backs, and a surprise right away here. Definite candidate Jackson Chachua, who'd really been in command of the position over the period, not selected for the final squad, just the preliminary squad there. And we had 3 possible candidates, Malcolm Bokeli just making the preliminary squad as well, and Junior Chamadu, ultimately the only right back selected here for the final squad, because possible candidate Joyxin Dawa not selected even for the preliminary squad. And so it's just Junior Chamadu over here, but we're not convinced he'll be the starter. So we give him 1 star as a possible starter, and 1 star to an out of position player, probably a central defender, we think might start over here as well. Okay, upfield we go to defensive midfielders. We got to stop at versatile midfielder Andre Zambo Anguissa. And another surprise here, just making the preliminary squad, although in this case it's due to injury there. So, players coded as defensive midfielder. Our likely candidate, Martin Hongla, also just making the preliminary squad, not the final cut there. But the second one, Carlos Baliba, was selected for the final squad. Neither of our 2 possible candidates made it. Ivan Neu just making the preliminary squad, and Willity Yunusa not even getting as far as that. However, we do have a possible but unlikely candidate that was selected, and it's Martin Nzi making the final cut there. And we have a new candidate also making it, a player who plays in Brazil, Arnold Mail Camden, also making the final cut. Might be interesting to see if he gets on the field. We have central midfielders to cover before we talk about starters here. Our likely candidate, Arthur Avom, or Arthur Avom Ibong, was selected for the final squad. So was our possible candidate, Jean Onana. And then one of our 4 players, seemingly off the squad, made the final cut. That was Olivier Kemen, kind of coming in from the cold there and joining as one of the defensive/central midfielders. Now we can talk about possible starters, but again, under the new manager, it's difficult to be confident. We think Carlos Baliba is a possible starter, and Arthur Avon also a possible starter, but that's as much as we're willing to kind of predict there. Okay, moving upfield to left attacking midfielders. No definite candidate here, but 2 likely candidates. Georges Kevin Nkudu and Christian Basagol, both of those were selected for the final squad. And we give both of them a possible level of being the starter over here. But we also think it's possible that the forward, who we'll meet a bit later, Carl Etta-Eong, could be a starter over here. So we give them all 1 star to indicate a possibility of starting. Quite different though on the right side. We have definite candidate Brian Mbumo and we think he's going to be a definite starter. I'll just throw that out there right now. Our first possible candidate, Patrick Soko, was selected for the squad, but our second one, Nathan Ngumu, not even making the preliminary squad there. And we have a new candidate here, Junior Dina Ibimde, and he was added to the squad, so made the final cut there. But again, we think it's difficult. Unlikely they'll get on the field ahead of Brian Mbeumo, barring some injury or something like that. So we consider Brian Mbeumo the definite candidate. I think he's the only player we've given 3 stars to. Moving to central attackers, we had no definite or likely candidates, just 2 at the possible level. The first one was actually Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, and he was not selected even for the preliminary squad. But the second one, Danny Namaso, did make the final cut there. Nevertheless, we think it's likely that this position will not be used. So we give 2 stars to that as the likely eventuality. And if they do use it, we actually think an out-of-position player would be used ahead of Danny Namaso. So we give 1 star to that possibility there. Okay, let's move on to the last category, the forwards, and we finish with a surprise, just like we started with. It's Vincent Abubakar, a definite candidate. He started a lot over the period, but didn't make the final cut. So that's their captain out of the picture. We're going to have a new captain here. We had 3 candidates at the likely level. The middle one, Mumi Ungamalu, not selected either, just making the preliminary squad there. But we had both of the others selected, Frank Magri and Carl Etta-Eong, who we met when we were talking about left attackers there. Both of them selected. At the possible level, we have Ignatius Ganago, just making the preliminary squad. But then we have a new candidate, a bit exciting here, Christian Kofane, making the final cut. So we'll see if he gets on the field. Meanwhile, our predictions are a bit muted here as well. Just 1 star for Frank Magri and 1 star for Carl Etta-Eong there. We do kind of slightly favor Eong, but not enough to put him as a likely candidate there. All right, that brings us to the end of our Spotlight review. Okay, that brings us to the end of our look at Cameroon, part 2 of Cameroon's players. And, well, we're not going to see Cameroon in the World Cup coming up, but perhaps in the next African Cup. After 2027, the African Cup will be every 4 years. That's been agreed to. Anyway, so probably in the next African Cup, we'll meet Cameroon again. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.